2nd, 2025 meeting to order. Meetings are recorded and may be posted on official Wheatland County social media channels. Agriculture Service Board is conducting this meeting in person and via conference call in accordance with the Municipal Government Act, Section 199. Council chambers is open for public attendance in person while continuing to use the current telecommuting process in place. All right, we have a few members missing and one calling in, so I'm going to call a roll call. Member Bigger is absent. Member Eichert?
Present.
Member Link?
Good morning, everyone.
Member Clausen?
Live and in person.
Member Kester is also away at a conference. Member Larson?
Here.
Member Wilson, we've heard, is on his way. Oh, we see him walking in. And Member Greer?
Present.
I am present. I am going to propose something a little different. So our procedure bylaw allows us to, or indicates that we should vote by exception when we have people joining remotely. But it also gives us the opportunity in Section 36 to temporarily suspend rules by resolution. And so I am going to move that instead of voting by roll call vote, we vote by exception to make things just flow a little easier. So I'll make that motion. Is there any discussion? Is there any reason that people can think of that that wouldn't be appropriate or worthwhile? No. Hearing none, I'll call the question. Member Eichert?
In favor.
Member Link?
In favor.
Member Clausen?
In favor.
Member Larson?
In favor.
Member Wilson, did you catch the whole thing?
No.
Basically.
Yeah, mainly
Yes, okay.
in favor.
And Member Greer?
In favor.
And I'm in favor, so that's carried. Okay, so hopefully that will help things just kind of flow a little nicer. First thing on our agenda is adoption of the agenda. Is there anything changing, anything to add, or anybody has anything? All right, a motion to accept the agenda then. Oh, Member Larson? Sorry, did you want to make?
Maybe I didn't say it loud enough. Yes.
Okay, you'll make that motion. All in favor? Or if anybody is opposed? Hearing and seeing none, that has passed. Next is adoption of minutes. Any errors or omissions?
I'll move the minutes as presented.
Thank you, Member Clausen. Any discussion? And if anybody is opposed, I'll call the question. Hearing and seeing none, that's passed. All right, first on our agenda is a presentation. This is Jordan Jensen, representative for the Heartland Training and Support Hub. He's going to present on farm safety. Welcome, Jordan.
Can we pass these around? Or is that all right? There's two different things there. Perfect. Thank you. Let me see if I open the right one. That is not the right one. I want this one. All righty, this thing's on. Okay, perfect. So my name is Jordan Jensen. I'm from Raymond, down in the county of Warner. I've been with, used to be the Farm Safety Center, which was established in '91. It's now recently rebranded as Heartland Training and Support Hub, but I've been with them since 2014. It's been quite an adventure, a lot of ups and downs. But George was mentioning earlier that he noticed that we did do a rebrand and our name changed. And why did we change from Farm Safety Center to Heartland Training and Support Hub? So to put it in a nutshell, the reason for the name change was basically to help us diversify and qualify for a greater variety of grant funding and corporate support, and as well as donor support. We found that with the name Farm Safety Center, we were quite pigeonholed into the farm safety area of operations. And a lot of what we do, while important to farmers and focused on farm safety, that's not the only thing we do. We also have programs for health and well-being, primarily focused on farmers and rural Canadians. So the decision came to rebrand, to pick something that still had rural focus, but that wasn't specifically focused on just farm safeties. We found that it was just too limiting in qualifying for grant funding. So our new vision under Heartland is to empower and support rural Canadians and newcomers, providing them with tools, resources, education, and safety insights they need to thrive in their communities. And I'll get into that a little bit later. The main reason I'm here is our Safety Smarts program. It's been running consistently since 1998. This program goes into rural elementary schools. We teach kindergarten to grade 6 students about farm safety in the classroom. It's been going for many, many years, been very successful, and we have been fortunate to receive quite a bit of support from Wheatland County over the years, as well as many other counties, ag societies, colonies, and farming families have contributed to keep this program running, as well as a fair bit of money from government grants and other corporate sponsors. So with the Safety Smarts program, you would have received an update letter that would have been sent out, I believe it was sent out in the fall of last year. And typically what we do in that letter is we give you an update on what's been going on, how many students we've reached, a little bit of information about the program, and we include a donation request. I believe that would have been sent out, and I think we've talked about that, George, which is probably the reason why I'm here. You want to know about the name change, what we're doing, especially considering that last year was a bit of a unique year, considering we were in a space where we didn't have a lot of funding and we were mostly in a fundraising mode. And so the funds that we did get were used to help us come up with the matching portion that we then used to qualify for a grant, which we now have. That was outlined in the letter that we sent, but just to give you a bit of an update, we are up and running and we do have funds available through the end of this year and hopefully to the end of 2027, assuming that we can continue to fundraise the matching portions required. So with the Safety Smarts program, these are some of the topics that are covered. Each grade gets a different presentation every year so that the students aren't hearing the same boring message year after year. The topics are geared towards age-appropriate activities and messages that are going to be more relevant to that age group. So one seat, one riders are really popular one. Our kindergarten students will get that one. Grade 2 students will learn about water and ice safety, grade 3 is protecting your hearing, and so on. And unless children repeat a grade, they're not typically going to repeat these presentations. These presentations typically last a full class period, somewhere around the 40-minute mark. Some of the kindergarten grade 1s can be a little bit shorter because their attention span's a bit less. And for the most part, these presentations are delivered in person right now. For a time, they were delivered virtually during COVID and for a couple of years after. Right now, we give schools the choice of whether they'd prefer in person or virtual, but the vast majority are now in person. This is just a sample of what our virtual presentations used to look like. This was one of our instructors, Marie. She would join on Zoom. We'd have an interactive background, and she talked. This one looks like she's talking about the importance of one seat, one rider. And we don't need to get into too much of that because according to our numbers, none of the schools in Wheatland County this year or this school year have received virtual. They've all been in person. To keep these presentations engaging, we do include some games. So this is the Splat game. It's a trivia style game where kids get to pick different categories. They answer questions. They're split up into teams. The questions are based on whatever their age group and their topics are going to be. So grade 2 students will learn about water and ice safety, and their questions will be reflected in that. And grade 5s will learn something more about livestock and equipment safety, ATV safety, and so on. We also have a Don't Press Your Luck game. Some of you might be kind of familiar with the TV show that this was based on. Similar thing where there's a trivia, they're asked questions related to farm safety, split into groups, and they get to compete against each other. So we've hit some milestones. Since 1998, we have delivered to 8,409 schools, well, school visits. Now, there's not that many unique schools in the province. So many of those schools have been visited year after year. And that's the way the program works. Typically 350 to 450 rural schools every year. We don't go into any of the big cities, none of the Calgary, Edmonton, Red Deer, Lethbridge schools. We're trying to focus our efforts on the small towns where we're most likely to have the biggest impact on the kids that are going to be spending more time on farms. In that time, we've delivered 44,175 presentations, and we've reached 895,026 students. And on average, we're reaching around 40,000 students per school year. Sometimes it's a bit higher. Last year, obviously, it was lower because we just didn't have the funds to run the program. Province-wide, since October of 2024, and if you're wondering why it's October, it's because we received the grant money in September that we needed to resume the program. And so since September, we had to hire a few new instructors, do some training. They had to start their booking and scheduling. So we didn't really get the ball rolling until October of this year. So since then, we've 205 rural elementary schools across the province, 955 presentations, 20,542 students, and 41 of those presentations were virtual, while 914 were in person. So specifically to Wheatland County. So since 2016, and we've been doing it before 2016, but I didn't feel like it to go all the way back. But since 2016, there's been 178 school visits. That should say, it's not that there's 178 schools, but we've 178 visits to your schools. 703 presentations have been delivered, reaching 16,049 students. This school year, there's been 7 elementary schools. 38 presentations have been delivered, 815 elementary students, and 100% of those have been in-person presentations. Now, if you're wondering what ones we have visited, one of the sheets that we handed out has this on it, and it's just a bit easier to read on a paper than what it might be on the screen. So if you see the top 7, those are, looks like they're primarily public schools that we have been to this year, and you can see the dates. So we started in December, and that's up until last week, I guess, March 26th. Now, all of these ones down here from 8 down are scheduled for later in this school year, up until June 12th, it looks like is the last one. Lots of those are colony schools. You still have Green Tree School. So we're on track to see quite a large number of students within Wheatland County this school year. And our plan is come the fall, after school's all done, we're going to spend the summer compiling numbers, putting together our information. We'll send you an update in the fall so that you can see exactly what we have done this full school year. And in that letter, we'll also include our annual donation request, and you can decide if that's going to be something that's worth funding for. But this is just specific to this school year and to Wheatland County. And if you notice any of those schools that are not in your county, please let us know. We can always correct it. From time to time, we do get it pointed out that, oh, hey, this one's close to our boundary, but it's not. And so we just want to make sure that we're not got things mixed up. So please let us know if we have anything incorrect. We do also collect feedback from all the teachers that participate in this program, so that the school teachers, they're provided with a SurveyMonkey link where they can provide anonymous feedback. And thus far, as you can see here, the feedback has been very, very positive. 99% believe it engages their students. 100% believed it was interesting and informative. 100% would like to receive the presentations again next year. and 92% prefer to receive in person rather than virtual. And there's other questions that we ask, but those are the kind of the highlights. And thus far, it's been very well received. We use this feedback that we get from them to enhance our program year after year. And that's part of what keeps us busy during the summer months when school's out on summer break. So I'd mentioned earlier that in addition to farm safety, we have other programs. There's our Sustainable Farm Families program, which you might have heard of. We've taken our booth to the Ag Service Board conference for several years now. We take a nurse, we'll take your blood, we'll poke your finger, make you stand on a scale, give you some information. Sometimes you like it, sometimes you don't. That's part of what this program is. Basically what we do in the Sustainable Farm Families program, we go to a lot of Hutterite colonies and family farms, and we spend basically a day every year over the course of 3 or 4 years teaching them about their health and well-being. We do these health assessments annually, and then we also help them understand what those numbers mean and provide them with education. And these are just some of the topics that we will discuss during these workshop settings. And the main message that we want them to take away is that here's what your numbers are, here's what they mean, and here's what you can do to take control and to use that to your advantage. The reason being is that lots of these small communities don't have access to as many doctors. Many farmers don't have a family doctor. They haven't been in who knows how long. You know, farmers, they probably won't go to the doctor until it's like a near-death experience. They're literally can't do their job anymore. So we try to take it to them on their time when it's convenient, and we provide them with this information. And it doesn't, if they're able to stick around the whole day, they're welcome to. In many cases, they're there for an hour. They ask their questions, we provide them with their information, and then they're free to go. This is some more of the information that they'll get when they're doing their health assessment, and this is what they'll get from the scale that they stand on. Just gives them a basic idea of kind of what your current health status is. And all of these are things that we'll explain in the workshop setting so that it makes sense and they can feel empowered. We don't want to just use kind of what the doctor's approach would be. You go in, they say, oh, you have this, this, this. We don't want to explain what it is. We'll just take a pill or two and come back in a few months. We want to make sure that they understand what's going on, that they can then set goals and make choices that'll improve their overall quality of life. Trying to level the playing field, basically, because these programs exist in the city, but not so much for rural areas. So we're trying to provide them with something that's of value. There's also a mental health assessment as well. And with all of these, if we identify anything that's outside the normal range, we provide them with a referral letter and recommend them to either their family doctor or related health professional or service to help them get the help that they need. Our rural health initiative, similar concept, not targeted towards farmers specifically. This is one where we partner more with counties and ag societies. We offer it to rural communities who have similar disadvantages as farmers when it comes to their rural health. And they'll get the same health assessment, same one-on-one, but instead of them doing a full day workshop experience where they're there for 6, 7, or 8 hours, they book a time online, they show up at their scheduled time. If it's an individual, they get anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half one-on-one with one of our nurses. If they come as a couple, which we encourage them to do if they have a spouse to bring them along, and they will have the opportunity to do up to 2 hours one-on-one with our nurses. And in that time, they'll get their assessment, get the education, set action plans, and make some goals. And we go back year after year so they can track their progress. That program has also received a lot of positive feedback. Unfortunately, at the moment, both of our Sustainable Farm Families and Rural Health Initiative programs are on hold. With our funding situation, we had to use all our available funds to put towards the matching portion required to qualify for the most recent Sustainable Canadian Agriculture Partnership grant that we got, which is now funding the majority of our Safety Smarts program. We are hoping to qualify for that same grant to resume the Rural Health Initiative and the Sustainable Farm Families program, but we likewise have to have matching portions to qualify for that. So we're fundraising for that as well. The challenge is that we have to fundraise for both programs, and as you know, money is tight all across the province. So until we have enough funds to resume that or qualify for the matching grant, both of those programs are just on a temporary hold. That kind of concludes what I had prepared. I'm sure you guys have some questions. I'm happy to answer any questions, clarify anything that you'd like.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Yeah, you do a lot more than I had realized, that's for sure. So it was really good to hear about your different programs. Yeah, grants are brutal, and it's always tricky when you're, trying to catch them and get that matching grant. It's going. Is there any questions from the floor? Member Larson.
First of all, you have a good last name. S-E-N.
I have family that are Larson as well. That's the other side of my family.
Oh, really? Because my mom's family is Jensen and my dad's side is Lowerson.
Oh, that's funny.
Anyway, I just happened to notice that slide, or the picture with the kid on the slide going face down. Probably not one you want to use.
Yeah, it's my nephew.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's not the brightest cookie.
You wanted to know if some schools weren't. I noticed that you have Green Tree School twice. I believe that's in Drumheller, which is in the Golden Hills School Division, but technically not in Wheatland.
Not in Wheatland?
But
okay.
It borders Wheatland County.
Okay, if it's not in Wheatland County, it's a simple fix for me. I'll go into our system. I'll move it from Wheatland into whatever. If it's Drumheller, that might be what's that? Starland County.
But Drumheller is its own municipality.
Right.
And a lot of kids, particularly from my division, do go to Drumheller to go to school. So
Okay, yeah.
not necessarily it's a bad thing, you just wanted to know. But I noticed that a bunch of them you have total presentation 0. Is that because you just haven't been there yet?
Yeah, if you look in the date column next to those, you'll see that they're scheduled for later
That's when
this
it's
year.
scheduled for. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
So
That's what I wondered.
of those 7 schools, the top 7 of those, we've seen them because that's up until March 26th or so. The rest of those will be delivered before the end of the school year. That at least they're scheduled to be.
Right. Okay, thanks. That was my question.
No problem.
I have just a quick question about so your business model. Do you how many staff do you have, or do you rely on volunteers, or how does it work?
We do have some volunteers, so we try to run a very lean team. Full-time admin staff, depending on the time of year, there's either 2 or 3. The rest of us everybody's hired as contractors. So all of our instructors that for Safety Smarts program, what we've done is we've got 7 instructors scattered throughout the province, and they're all assigned a geographic region. And within that region, they're responsible for contacting the schools, booking their schedules, the presentations, and then going and delivering them. They're all independent contractors because it's not year-round. It is very seasonal. We don't micromanage. We provide them with the list. They do the booking. We follow up and make sure that they actually did go to the school. We contact the school to provide them with the survey feedback, just to verify that they are doing what they're claiming they're doing. And our other programs, our Rural Health and Sustainable Farm Families programs, operate in a similar way. All of the staff on there are hired as independent contractors. We do get volunteers from time to time that will help when we go to conferences or events, or that help us with some of the fundraising as well. But as far as full-time staff, there's myself, a program manager, and a part-time bookkeeper/secretary.
Right. Yeah, it's important to kind of keep lean when you're, but you also mentioned something, so this is across Alberta? Is it?
Yeah, the entire province.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, makes for a lot of driving. All of our programs, we go all across the province, so we spend quite a bit of time up in Grand Prairie, the Peace region. Typically, we don't go too far. Like, we haven't been to Fort McMurray, but we find that there's not a lot of agriculture up there, not a lot of farming clients. So we'll go a couple hours north of Edmonton, both sides of the province, anywhere that there's demand. We do occasionally go into some border in the Saskatchewan area where there's demand for us, and we get support from them separately because the grant money that we get from the government prohibits us from using it outside of Alberta.
All right. Any other questions? Anybody else?
Just looking at the schools, do you guys reach out to like Sacred Heart Academy, the Catholic school division in the county?
Give me just a minute and I can probably tell you. It's not on there. So part of that could be that the school hasn't yet responded, or why can't I find my, there we go. There's probably a couple reasons. That list is just schools that we have either visited this school year or are planned to be visited before the end of June, which is when the school year ends. It's possible that the school is either not interested, has not replied, or our instructor hasn't reached out to them yet, or just wasn't able to fit them into their schedule. Our instructor for your region, his name is Ray Hoppins. He's a retired school teacher, principal, and superintendent, and he lives in Olds, or near Olds, out in your neck of the woods. And he's phenomenal at what he does, but he's got a very large area, all the way from there over to the Saskatchewan border. Basically, I think Wheatland is the southern part of his area, and it goes up as far as Starland, I think, is in his area as well. So what?
Strathmore, which is its own municipality.
Right.
So we might go there, but if you're doing your search based on Wheatland County, it wouldn't bring those up.
Right.
Yeah, George, actually, that's true, George Freeman's Strathmore.
Yeah. Our database is set up a little bit weird, is that I can attach it to whatever county I want, regardless of where it actually is. Sometimes that's good, but sometimes it makes for user error, and I click the wrong button. And occasionally it's like, that school is nowhere near where it should be. So remind me again, what was the name of the school you wanted to know? Sacred Heart Academy Catholic School. Let me tell you right here. So it looks like we have been to them, but we haven't been to them since, well, last time we were there was May 10th, 2023. And we were there 2022, 2021, for whatever reason, they're not on this list yet, but I can reach out to Ray and find out why that is. At the moment, I don't see any notes or activities. Oh wait, there's one note. Let's see. New contact person, not as enthusiastic. We'll try again next year. Sorry, that's all I got for you. But we do leave it up to them. Unfortunately, we do not make it to every school, but we do try to get to as many as possible. And we've also tried to prioritize schools that live in regions where we have strong support. Wheatland County is considered a priority one because we do receive really consistent funding from you guys year after year. Believe it or not, of the counties that we go to, less than half will contribute year after year. You guys are one of the few that are excellent supporters, and so we've put you at priority one, so we try to get to as many of your schools as we can, but ultimately the decision is up to the school whether or not they will accept us.
Fair enough. All right, well, I'll just suggest if anybody has any other schools that they aren't sure about, should be on, just to reach out to George and he can follow up.
Absolutely.
Any other little discrepancies or whatever. So thank you very much for coming. We do appreciate it. We
Chair
are
LaPrice?
going, oh, sorry, Member Link, go ahead.
My apologies. I just wanted to jump in before you wrap this up. Thank you for the presentation. This is fantastic, and I think it's so critical, especially to start with, you know, our students when they're young, and then I love that you have different programs for each year. So thank you for the work that you've done both in developing the program and in sort of your resiliency in bringing it back. And yeah, just can't say enough about how much I appreciate this. I actually appreciate the schools that are in like other, say Strathmore, for example, or Drumheller, that might be tagged under Wheatland County, just because we only have, I believe, a couple, maybe two schools in the county, in Carsland and Wheatland Crossing schools, but so many of our students do attend schools in other areas. So I think it might be worth reviewing the list and just tagging any schools where we think like a large number of our students attend, so that so we can, if you're doing updated reporting on number of classroom visits or students reached or that type of thing, so that we're capturing that. I'm not sure even if there's a way on your surveys for, I don't know if students do any surveys, but if they could even mark down like that they're a Wheatland County student, and then we get a sense of how many of our students are being reached. And that's not necessary, just a potential thought. And then my only question is do you have challenges, like we heard the comment about Sacred Heart Academy, and hopefully there can be some progress with that contact. Do you typically have problems getting permission to deliver the program in schools? I know I've heard that from other programs, that sometimes it can be challenging to get the authorization and to work with the schools to deliver alternative programming.
Thank you for your question. Yes, that is a challenge. It's always one that we're always trying to overcome. We're fortunate in the sense that we have been doing this since 1998, so 26-ish years. We do have a good reputation. A lot of schools know us and will call us to request us, which makes it a lot easier. Where we run into challenges is typically in two scenarios. One, where the school has got a new administrator or somebody that comes in and they're not familiar with us or the program or what we do. And sometimes they're not as keen on bringing it in unless existing staff and teachers at the school can then say, hey, they've been here before, we need them. Typically, that's not as big of a problem in the smaller schools. Typically, the smaller the school, the more farm kids there are, the less demand for outside programs there has been, which makes it easier for us to get in. Where we tend to struggle the most is with some of the bigger schools. Some of those, and we kind of leave it up to them to decide. We'll ask them how many of their students come in on buses, how many of them are farm kids, and we try to use that as a metric to decide whether or not it's worth sending our instructors into those schools. If less than 10% of the students are farm kids, it's likely that most of those kids at the school have never been to a farm and probably won't go to a farm. And that's where we try to make the call, okay, is the school a priority? If the community themselves wants to help fund it, then we'll go to them. Great, if the school will accept us. But in many cases, that's where the administrators and teachers at the school will say, there's just not enough students on farms in our school to really merit a day or two or three. Some of those big schools will be there for 3 or 4 days doing presentations, because it's one presentation per classroom and not the whole school at a time, right? So if a school has 20 classes and we're lucky if we can get 5 presentations or 6 presentations in a day, we'll be there for several days. And we don't want to take up too much of their time if they don't see value in it. And we don't want to waste the funds that we get delivering this program to students who are going to see minimal benefit from it. So hopefully that kind of answered your question.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you. And I suspect having the instructor for our area being a retired teacher and administrator, I would imagine that would be a strength as well for securing that access to deliver the programming in the schools. So thank you. That's fantastic.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So I was just going to let you know that later on in our agenda today, we are discussing our donation requests. So yours is in there, and we'll be letting you know, as soon as we have that decision.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. And if at any time throughout the year you have questions about what we've done, or if you have recommendations on the school list, if you want more information, please let me know. I'm happy to do my best to provide you with whatever information I can.
Yeah, thank you very much. And again, I'll say we really appreciate the work that you're doing in the county, and it's so important for kids to learn these things. So appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Is it all right if I sneak out?
Yes.
I have to get to another meeting back in Lethbridge, but
Yes, no, we appreciate your taking the time to come today, and drive carefully.
thank you. Take care. Oh, yes. Always do.
So we also have our second appointment, Rich Nicholson, investigator inspector with agriculture and irrigation. And he is here to speak about on-farm slaughter operations. Very timely presentation. Oh, and we need to accept the past. So that's moved by Member Wilson to accept the previous presentation as information. Is there anybody in opposition? Hearing and seeing none, that is carried. Thanks, Shannon.
Thank you.
All right. Rich, when you're ready.
Good morning. Welcome
Morning.
to spring. It was a beautiful drive out from Olds this morning. It was, yeah, it was fun. So Rich Nicholson, I'm with Agriculture and Irrigation as our unit. We are the Animal Health Assurance Branch and the Investigation and Inspection Specialist. It's quite the mouthful, for a title. It's, yeah. Just a quick overview of us. There's 19 staff. We're located at Airdrie, Olds, Lethbridge, Vermilion, Red Deer and Edmonton. In Airdrie, Executive Director Bruce Hamblin is out of Airdrie, spends his time between Airdrie and Edmonton. There's one manager in the south, 4 inspectors and the assistant rat and pest specialist. Out of Olds, there's the rat and pest program specialist, admin and myself, and then 1 inspector in Lethbridge. Vermilion is Hannah, our wild boar specialist program. She's in Vermilion, but obviously she covers the whole of the province. Red Deer, there's 1 manager and 1 inspector. In Edmonton, they've got 4 inspectors dotted around different areas in Edmonton there. We hope, this is our vision, we contribute to the public confidence and enhance the growth of globally competitive, sustainable agricultural food industry in Alberta. And as it says there, the mandate is to ensure the compliance with legislation that contributes to food safety, animal health and welfare, public health, market access through effective and efficient licensing, audit assurance, inspection, investigations, and compliance activities. So we go into places like dairy barns, which I was in all day yesterday, just ensuring that the barn, the milk house, the barn, the yards, the buildings meet the regulation and the standards that are set out for the dairy industry. We also have overview of the feeder associations for the loan program. We look after the deer and elk farms. Bees, I have very little to do with bees, but apparently we cover bees. And we also have overview on the Line Fence Act, the Animal Keepers Act, the Disposal of Dead Animals regulations, and I think that's it. I'm sure there's more. Pretty sure there's more. I'll probably go across them in a minute. That again is just the overview of what we do and the logic behind what we do. We are all peace officers, as the investigators are all peace officers here in Alberta, and 19 acts and regulations that we're assigned to look after. So there's way more than I just said. As you can imagine, it's sometimes we don't deal with the Line Fence Act, say, for many months, and all of a sudden you'll get 3 or 4 coming in, and then you have to sit there and review the act, or the Animal Keeper Act as well. That's something that it just seems like you'll go an age, you don't deal with it, then all of a sudden you're thrown back into Animal Keeper Act. You're like, man, I got to refresh myself on that. So we have quite a few that we look after. Oh, I should have probably just gone straight to this slide of what we look after. So the Agricultural Pest Act, like we say, the rat program and the wild boar, the Animal Health Act, the Disposal of Dead Animal regulations, authorised medicine sale regulations. So your places like the UFA Co-op and those sort of things that sell the over-the-counter dewormer, the ivermectin and that sort of thing, have to be, we go in there to ensure that they're not selling anything that they shouldn't be selling, anything that's out of date, ensure that they're keeping proper records like the PID sales records and just general things like that, and that they've got the correct license displayed and drug poster displayed as well, the correct use. The Animal Keeper Act is, it's always a tricky one to deal with, I'll be honest with you, because when you're talking, especially when you're talking about people's horses who've, let's say you've boarded them and then don't keep up with the cost of the boarding, then the person who owns the facility can then say, okay, you know, let's say you're a few $1,000s behind, I need to get that money back. They will complete the forms, they'll contact us. We review to ensure that what they're trying to claim is within the Act, and we can help them through the process of selling the animal, making sure that LIS and RCMP are aware that the animal is going to be sold, and ensuring that the money goes to the right person at the end. But as I say, when you're dealing with people's animals, it gets very emotive and it can be a difficult one to deal with. The Dairy Industry Act and the regulations, we have the oversight on that. Like I say, we'll go and ensure that the barns are suitable for the purpose, that the general cleanliness of the milk house, the bulk tank, lighting's correct, ventilation's correct, that the animals have, how can we say, as clean as cows are going to get, right? That they're not rolling in there absolutely covered in muck and mud and then trying to milk them. That makes it a little bit more difficult. That their milking facility is up to regulation, they're disposing of manure properly. It's like a whole thing when you go there, but it's one of my most favourite things to do, to be honest, because I get to interact with the producer, and I can honestly say I've been doing this, I'm just entering my 3rd year, and I would say 98% of the dairies that I deal with, absolutely unproblematic. And when I say like the 2% are problematic, not problematic, but there's things that they could improve on, and we work together with the producer to get them back to compliance. So it's always, to me, rewarding at the end of working with the producer when you go back in and everything's looking, you know, as it should be. Carrying on there with the Feeder Association Guarantee Programme. So in relation to that, as you're probably well aware, the government support the programme, which allows the producers to have loans at a reduced rate. We ensure that the paperwork that has been completed is correct, and then we'll go out and inspect the cattle as well, so we can ensure that Joe's taken a contract for 50 head of cow. We'll go out and say, yep, there's 50 there, just to ensure that they're branded correctly and they are there and they're healthy as well and being looked after. And we review every month new contracts, and we'll inspect the cattle twice a year and do office inspections as well twice a year. So we'll go in and just ensure that there's proper administration going on. Fair Farm Act, really I haven't dealt with any of that in the last 3 years, to be honest, and fair farms are, I don't even know honestly if we have any in Alberta left. I've not come across one. Line Fence Act, as they say, good fences make good neighbours. We'll become involved there if, say, my neighbour's not looking after the fence, he's got the cattle, I don't have cattle, I shouldn't have to look after the fence. Or there's a dispute over whose fence it is. We don't go in to say, no, this is your fence, you look after it. However, if one party has the benefit of having the fence, i.e. it's going to stop my cows from wandering into your place, that's my benefit, then the portion of the maintenance and the upkeep is mine. However, we do encourage people to be, like I say, good neighbours and share that cost. More often than not, when we're in a place with a Line Fence Act where we can't find that common ground, we'll use the farmer's advocate. Super super advocacy program, and the Peter Doby, I think I've got his name right. Great guy, really knowledgeable about Line Fence Act, Petty Trespass Act. He's just like a font of knowledge that I go to quite often. I'll send him an email. I'm like, hey, brother, I don't know what to tell these people. And he's super. Eggs and processed egg regulations, we look after that as well. And again, it doesn't come up very often. When it does, it's, yeah, you look at it, you're like, okay, there's a lot to learn on that one. But mainly when that comes up, we'll get a call to say, we just bought these eggs from a farmer's market and somebody said we can't have them. So we'll check, and they should be, if they've come like from the, how can we say, the farm gate, they should be marked as uninspected. And there's certain things that the farmer or the producer really shouldn't do with the mice. You can only sell them to the end producer, not somebody that's going to go like take them to a bakery and make a product from. So I won't bore you with all the ins and outs of it, because I'll be honest, I don't remember all the ins and outs of it because it's not something that I deal with very often. Livestock Industry Diversity Act, that's the cervid industry. So we ensure that the farms are up to regulations, so fencing at least 8 foot tall, gates are locked, there's proper handling facilities, the animals are being looked after, and there's proper inventory going on. I say recently, it's just over 12 months ago, we do ask, because we're investigators with an investigative background, to look into other acts as well, which how can I say, we don't do very often, and we try not to, because it's a whole learning process for us then that we have to go into before we can even do the investigation. But just over 12 months ago, we were asked to look into the, I'll probably say the name of this, but like the power supply. There was a dispute over how a local power company was taken over, and we were asked to look into that. So we will now and again do that, but it isn't something that we're asked to do every day. And like I say, we have quite a workload as well to look after. So it's always interesting when that one comes up. The Meat Inspection Act is a big one for us, and more often than not, these will come through with complaints over when people have become ill over consuming uninspected meat. And there's a presentation that I have on the Meat Inspection Act that I'll give there. The B Act, like I say, honestly, I haven't got much to tell you on that because it's something that I do not deal with. The other acts there, we don't have a great deal to do with, but again, it is something that we have overview on. So we use the compliance principles to ensure that we remain competitive, Alberta remains competitive in the food industry. And it's important to have that confidence in the product that's coming out of Alberta, not just in Alberta, but on the worldwide market as well as Canadian. Already been through them. I'm probably sure a lot of you already know that we do training for the control methods as well. So the strychnine, well, they don't use strychnine anymore. Eh?
I wouldn't bring that one up.
No, I'll gloss over that one anyway. So we spoke about the feeder and the loan guarantee program. If you're in the loan program, you're probably aware of the provincial supervisor, Tom Pack. He does quite a phenomenal job of educating us as inspectors on what we need to be looking for and how we conduct our inspections as well.
Sorry, can I just ask a quick question? Is there any changes coming towards the Feeders Association Act due to current fraudulent activities?
I don't think there's going to be any changes. There hasn't been any changes sort of betrayed to us, is my best answer. Does that mean that there are not going to be any? Who knows? It may be something that they review the whole program to say, you know, where can we, you know, make this better? I don't, honest, but it hasn't been said so far.
I was going to ask that one because it didn't one feeder association collapse recently over that.
Yeah, it's a touchy subject.
Yeah, when I saw the oversight on here, I was like, oh.
Yeah, it's been a whole thing. It's been a whole thing. We work closely with LIS and the RCMP side of LIS as well. As I say, when we're dealing with the Animal Keeper Act, we're in contact with them quite a bit to ensure that they're aware that there's going to be a sale of an animal, whether it's horse or cattle, whatever it is. And also, you know, under the Act as well, under the Animal Keeper Act, the complainant can sell tack and equipment as well to recoup any costs. Yes, sorry, I don't recognise that name. LIS is, Rob Mars is the new manager for LIS out of Calgary. And again, we work with Corporal Lindsay Anderson and Constable Neil Reynolds. Lindsay and Neil work out of our office in Airdrie as well. So we have a really good relationship with RCMP when we're dealing with any of the LIS stuff and the regulations and Stray Animal Act. You may already be aware that LIS deal with animal livestock repeatedly breaking through fences, and they will deal with the issues in relation to damages and recouping those sort of things. Oh, sorry. So we have a member of staff on call. We all take a month and we rotate. So after hours, if need be, we can be contacted on the 1866 number. You'll leave a message and the on-call inspector picks that up and we'll call you back. A lot of those sort of calls after hours are a lot of the on-farm dairy rejections. So either the milk's too hot or it's been spoilt somehow, or there's a problem on farm. We get a lot of after-hours calls on that because, as you know, milk collection happens 24/7 all year round. So there's always somebody on call that we can deal with any issues there. That's me, in case you ever need to contact me. I unfortunately don't have any cards with me today. I'm waiting for my new box of cards to come, so I can't hand any cards out, but that's my cell phone number, and try and return the call as soon as I can if you do call me, and if I'm away, my voicemail is always updated to say that I'm away.
Just another question. Do you guys have trouble finding staff? I've just noticed usually whenever I look at the Alberta website, it's inspectors, lots of inspectors are.
Sorry,
lots of inspectors are on the Alberta employment website. Like last year, I think there was one in the south and one.
I can't see we have a problem finding staff. We, when the postings go out, we have quite a lot of applicants that apply. So it's at the minute we're made up a lot of ex-law enforcement, so RCMP. There's myself and one of the Airdrie inspectors who's ex-City of Calgary Police. So, because of the investigative background in it, we kind of bring that side of things. The inspections part, when we first joined, as you can imagine, it's a steep learning curve because not many people have ever been into a dairy barn or even looked at an elk close up. So it's a very steep learning curve, but the investigative side we kind of have. The inspection side is like I say, a steep learning curve for us. Oh, sorry, just trying to find the next slide there.
I have a question while you're bringing it up.
Absolutely.
What, you mentioned Act and regulations. What type of offenses would your investigators, like what are all those regulations? What kind of offenses are they? Are they strict liability?
So we act on, how can I say, when an offence is brought to us, we work on a compliance principle, so dependent on the offence. So if it's something more to do, let's say, with the Meat Inspection Act, we'll less go through all of the stages of the compliance principles because of the danger to Albertans. A lot of stuff, though, that we can actually deal with, going out, looking at the offence, speaking with the offender, re-educating them on what the regulations of the Act say, and their like I say, if it's a dairy, then we'll go through their dairy regulation with them to say, you know, this is what your industry says it will be. And then we work with them to come back into compliance. So if say like it's a problem with the building, we'll ask them how long do you need to get. Let's say I'm just dealing with a guy at the minute, one of his walls in the parlour has started to peel back. That causes a danger to his animals. So he's asked for 3 weeks to get that done, to get a contractor back in to replace the wall. I think 3 weeks is reasonable, and in the meantime he's made some kind of repair on it, so he's not as dangerous. I'd go back in 3 weeks, and if he's done it, that's great, we're back into compliance. Some of the offences, like I say, with the Meat Inspection Act, because of the danger that's posed to Albertans, we'll probably look more towards a prosecution and going to court and dealing with them that way, because of it, like I say, it's such a clear and present danger.
Right. So if you go to that, then you can issue stop work orders and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, with the especially with the Meat Inspection Act, we have a few more powers where we can say,
right,
if the licensed facility, we can suspend the license or apply to have it revoked. And like I say, we can say you are not to process any animals until we're back into compliance, or it's been deemed.
Yeah. So they're not criminal offences anyway.
No. However, with some of the offences that we deal with the Meat Inspection Act, in partnership with RCMP, we're now looking towards maybe using more criminal offences because of the danger to the public. Right.
Yeah, so that's a determination you would make, and if it looks criminal, then you call the RCMP.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought. I just wanted to check.
So the primary goal is, when we're dealing with something, is food safety, and we use the Meat Inspection Act and regulations in relation to that. The Meat Inspection Act, as it says there, really enables the system for licensing and inspecting the requirements for the slaughtering process and sale of the meat. So we've recently dealt with a few on-farm slaughter operations here in Wheatland County, one of which I went to court with because it was so bad. And he received fines of, I want to say it was just short of $20,000. The on-farm slaughter operation, the license allows you to obviously slaughter your own animals, use them for your own family that are there in your household. You can also sell an animal to, like, if you came to my farm and say, that I want that sheep, it can be slaughtered and cut up, but you can't sell that meat. So that meat is uninspected and cannot go out to the public. That is, you own the sheep because you've purchased it from me, you own the meat, that's for your household. It's not to be shared, sold, bartered, given away. It's uninspected meat, and it's not to go out to the public consumption. In the operations that we've done out recently in Wheatland County, we arrived and there was, like, I I want to say about 130 people present on the farm. I think there's some photographs in this presentation as well. It was a warm summer's day. Animals were being slaughtered, cut up, and the meat left out in tarps for people to pick through. So was the farm dogs, so were the ravens. Those sort of operations, as you can imagine, could have an horrendous effect on the greater public when we look at the outbreak of E. coli recently, which we were involved in as well with the daycares. We've had some really big operations in relation to that, investigations that, and what we found with some of them, there's also the organised crime element as well. With one facility that we went to, it ended up, the RCMP recovered a number of stolen vehicles as well. So it's not just, you know, the meat side of things we're looking at as well. There's an organised crime element to some of the premises that we're going to as well.
Don't ever go to Iraq and try and do what you do, because you would. It's different.
And one facility we did an operation on, we arrived just as the customers were arriving as well, and the animals freshly slaughtered, cut up and put into garbage bags, and they were just about to be put in the back of the vehicle. And I spoke to the gentleman that purchased, and he said, well, where I come from,
That's how we do it. Yeah.
And that's where our educational piece comes back in, where we, you know, our part of compliance is speaking to these people to say, you know, well, you know, maybe where you come from, you don't deal with the same diseases that we deal with. You may not use the same drugs that we use. And when you do that piece with them, you see oh, didn't ever think of that. So there's an educational piece about it as well, but the possibilities for meat to go out into the public that's not been inspected and that's been freshly slaughtered, that's just come from the auction straight to slaughter, there's an issue there, because obviously you've got to have that animal for 30 days before you can slaughter it anyway, to ensure that any disease or illness is going to show itself, has been treated, any drugs that it's been treated with are out of the system. So yeah, it's a big problem that we have, and that also then leaches over to the disposal of the dead animals as well, which again, there's some pictures later in this that you'll see why we have such a problem with some of the on-farm slaughter operations. So abattoirs are meat inspectors. They deal with those. They do the inspection of those. We, as our side of things with investigation and inspection section, we don't generally deal with abattoirs unless there's a problem with the disposal methods. But generally the oversight of them comes from the other side of our branch, the meat inspectors. Mobile butchers, these operators will attend a farm, kill and slaughter an animal, but not cut it up. A mobile butcher facility, they can attend, kill, slaughter, cut up and process, and they will have the ability to add the uninspected meat, the inspected meat label on there. The on-farm slaughter operation, like I say, is really a farm to table. The owner of the animal to their table, not the owner of the animal to friends, restaurants or anything. That meat is uninspected and cannot go out to anybody other than that immediate family. Alberta Health Services, they deal with the cutting, the wrapping, the processing. We do work with Alberta Health Services as well in relation to some of the on-farm slaughter operations where the meat has been traced back to going to restaurants. There was last year we were with Alberta Health, did some inspections with them where we discovered uninspected meat in the restaurants and then closed down. More often than not, you'll see we're closed for refurbishment. There's a story behind the refurbishment. Any meat in the store or market must be inspected, and I think I've flogged a dead horse on this, and it's unlawful for anybody to have uninspected meat in any facility where it's going to be for sale or process for the greater public. The offence penalty with this has just gone up from $10,000 per offence to $100,000 per offence. So each offence, there's a possibility of that fine being $100,000 for each offence under the Meat Inspection Act. They've also just increased statute of limitations to 2 years from the date of the offence. So we have 2 years to investigate a complaint to the prosecution. So, and that's been kind of big for us because sometimes, especially with the volume of calls that we get in relation to the Meat Inspection Act, sometimes it's difficult to investigate them all in a timely manner. So that was a big help to us to be able to have that time period where we can, you know, have that 2 years from the date of the offence. And I think the $100,000 increase has helped to deter a few people wanting to sort of take that risk of being caught. Has it deterred everybody? Well, we'll see. Humane slaughter is a big thing as well, ensuring that the animals are slaughtered correctly, that they're rendered unconscious properly, and that only the animals that are going to be slaughtered are in that facility. So we haven't got, let's say, in the slaughter facility, the farm dogs and the cats and everything else are there, and it's not a place where other animals are being produced as well. And records must be kept, and they, especially for the on-farm slaughter, it's pretty important for us so that we can trace where animals have come from as well, especially when we're dealing with some of the meat that's been sent out to the greater public. So the Section 31 has been a big one for us, where we found meat that's uninspected, not for sale in butcher shops, which causes some problems. I'm not going to obviously read everything to you. It's just, you know, it's there. And so, like I said, when we deal with the meat inspection, we have a lot of overlap with other pieces of regulations and acts that we deal with as well, particularly the disposal of dead animals. There's a lot of inappropriate disposal that goes on during some of the, how can I say, lesser appropriate facilities that are slaughtering animals, where they're just piling up large amounts of offal and carcasses close to residents, close to water sources, close to the neighbours, not being composted properly or buried properly or sent to render. The Line Fence Act comes into, and also the Stray Act, because we have quite a few where we find out there's an illegal slaughter facility going on because the animals are escaping. And that's there was one in Edmonton in particular that was happening in somebody's garage, and the sheep were coming out of the backyard and wandering down the alleyways and into the city, and it was found where the sheep were coming to and from, and it was somebody's garage. They were using that as a slaughter operation. So, like I say, people think when you say when we're dealing with some of the officers, it's a straightforward investigation. There's a lot that goes into some of these investigations, and a lot of background that we have to do with it. This came from the prosecution from Wheatland County just last October, I think it was, that we went to court with him, and you'll see from some of the pictures of why there's concerns over some of the. So in the mobile home sort of cabin that they were using. That table and the floor around it, as you can see, is pretty thick with blood. Although the operator told me it was recently cleaned. There was absolutely no way that was recently cleaned, and that's the same for the bandsaw there. Apparently that was only cleaned a few days before we went in to close the operation down. And you can just see that the potential is just rife for E. coli and all sorts of kinds of bacteria that just shouldn't be out there in the public, you know, for the food. The photograph on the left shows one of the flies' nests on the window. Again, that's a photograph on the right of the floor. You can see how dirty it is and thick with blood and grease and fat. This is one of the piles of offal and carcasses that was being piled up, and you can see how close it is to the water source there. Just to the east of this pile was where the tarp was, where people could select their own cuts of beef. Those dogs, the chickens, and we had ravens coming in, and there's video of them coming in and just, like I say, helping themselves as well. So it just has such a great effect on the environment as well, right? Because especially when we think of the avian flu that came through, there's the threat of the African swine flu as well, which obviously this isn't swine, but still, you know, when we have people that are just discarding of animals and the waste like this is how disease spreads, because you get the birds that are coming in, taking disease pieces of whatever away, spreading the disease. It's close to neighbours as well, and the stench was horrendous. How the neighbours never complained, I honestly don't know, because it was like, I've dealt with, unfortunately, I was a cop for 30 years, so I dealt with quite a few decomposing bodies, and you get used to that kind of smell. When you come to this, it's got a whole new stench of its own, and it kind of hits you in the back of the throat.
The awful was just awful.
It really was, yeah. This is another pile at the same premises of discarded animals. There was zero attempt at a burial pit or composting. Yeah, the whole process to clean that up from start to finish was 3 months by the time they got rid of more or less everything that they needed to. As it says, that they were suspended. They received a warning, and then we prosecuted them because we went back a little bit later and found more things. This one's from Mountain View County investigation. This one was a very long operation because it started here in Wheatland County. We closed them down twice, and they just literally went around purchasing new places to do this operation. This operation was also, we believe, was part of an organised crime syndicate as well, where stolen vehicles were recovered from. And you can see there's absolutely no regard for how they dispose of the waste. It's literally just, yeah, I mean, it's just thrown. Yeah. I spoke to the neighbour of this facility, and he described it, and he's a seasoned farmer, and as you can imagine, not much sort of through him, but when I spoke to him, he said it was like a horror show. One day he was walking through the trees with his dog, and there's guts just like this, just spread. He's like, I thought a plane had crashed, and that's what I was looking at. He says, and then I realised it was how they were disposing of their animals. And as it says there, it was a very complex operation that went across quite a few counties. And yeah, these guys, they we're dealing with them again, unfortunately, in a new location now. I think they might be our guinea pigs for the new fines of $100,000. Yeah, they were interesting to deal with. E. coli investigations that we've been involved with. In 2022, the fatality where uninspected meat was purchased from a gas station. And unfortunately, a child passed away in that. In 2023, that was the daycare E. coli breakout in Calgary. That investigation led us to closing down quite a few meat shops in Calgary. Actually spread between the northeast and southeast.
Surprise, surprise.
So that we did a lot of work there with Alberta Health Services, and yeah, like I say, it was a lot to deal with because I can't remember exactly how many people were hospitalised over that, but we yeah, it was a big investigation. Unfortunately, last year again, E. coli breakout with a number of people hospitalised. And again, Alberta Health, it triggers an investigation for them, so they contact us to say we have another breakout. So our sort of thing is to then we speak with the families and the people involved to sort of backtrack where the breakout may have come from. Learned quite a bit about E. coli during that, and there are some other facts about it. I had a doctor, he was the lead doctor at Alberta Children's Hospital, involved with the breakouts and these sort of things. Very clever guy, spoke way above my head. He was like throwing out all these, and I'm like, that's cool. What does that mean? So, and I also found out that this was something new to me. Some of the E. coli, even if you cook it right, it's still there. And sometimes it's not a problem. Sometimes it is. Oh, very interesting. Burgers, this doctor said, if you ever go to his house for a barbecue, your burgers are always well done. He says, because every summer, come burger season, E. coli break out because people aren't cooking burgers properly. I asked the question, why? You know, is he, particularly with the ground stuff. So the E. coli, if you cook a steak, you cook and eat, and that's all good. Even if you have it like rare, medium rare, you're still cooking it and getting rid of a lot of the bad stuff that's going to harm you. So when it gets ground up, and he said like it just takes one tiny molecule of the E. coli strain, gets mixed in with all the rest of the meat, he says, and it spreads like wildfire. So that's why ground beef, burgers and things like that, they say cook.
It's the processing of the meat.
That's exactly it. It spreads the, yeah. So I'm like, very interesting. So cook thoroughly. Not all strains of E. coli are dangerous, but the STEC, the sugar toxin, yeah, can cause the kidney failure and death. Not just the uninspected meat side of things, but also raw milk as well. It's present in. So we deal with the raw milk side of things as well. We have had some of the investigations where we've been into some of the butcher facilities, and we found stamps that aren't stamps. So the picture on the left there, it had been made to look like there was a stamp there, there was partial stamping on it. The meat inspector stamp is, you've probably seen them, right? They're pinned, so it penetrates through the first dermal layer, and you can tell if you cut back if the pins have penetrated through. And that was literally, it was a terrible attempt at a fake stamp. Yeah, that's some of the sheep that we found in one of the butcher shops in Calgary. There's some interesting things that we found, and yeah. And these also sort of indicators for us sometimes as well that the meat hasn't come from a proper inspected facility when we're finding, you know, the traces of hair and things through them, because more often not the good facilities, you're not going to find anything like that on there, but you're also going to find a good clear stamp as well. I covered that there, where some facilities closed for a 2-week renovation that they were telling people. That was not the case. They were closed because of the findings in the freezers. Some of the communities that we deal with close down. They won't speak to us. That it becomes problematic of trying to find where the sources have come from. However, through investigative tactics, we have found a lot of the suppliers, and they're being prosecuted. There's some that are going through right now. Some have already been prosecuted, and they're the Criminal Code Section 118. I'm just trying to remember what that one is, but I think it's danger to the public is the offence that we're looking at to prosecute repeat offenders with, and also on the, depending on the severity, offenders that we haven't come across before, again depending on how severe the danger is. Just trying to remember if yes, I was involved in this one. This was a one that we actually had a video sent to us from this that highlighted that the animals weren't being rendered unconscious properly, and there was multiple cuts across the throat rather than one clean cut. And there was also issues with the disposal of the dead animals, and as it says there, they were suspended and reported for the numerous offences. I think that's it for gory photographs on the Meat Inspection Act. Sorry, I'm just trying to, where's it gone? I have one more, and I think I've bored you enough. Disposal of dead animal regulations, which, as I say, this comes more often than not in relation to some of the offsos that we've dealt with. 64 investigations in 2024 with regards to disposal of dead. Now, it's not just the on-farm slaughter that we deal with as well. Say if there's a barn fire, we'll help find a suitable location for burial or composting, and also bring in companies as well to do rendering if that's appropriate as well. And we work alongside, like during the avian influenza, CFIA and the Environment Agency as well, to ensure that where animals are going to be buried or composted are appropriate, i.e. not close to water sources or water tables, how the runoff is going to be. With chickens, it's easy. There's not much runoff with them. They hold very little liquid content, and they'll compost within 6 weeks, more or less. You've got if it's done properly, like a hummus type material left. So they compost pretty easy. And like I say, burn downs of barns. We've dealt with loss of cattle due to starvation, heat, drowning. We had cows go through ice on a dugout, and a few drowned there. That was last, I think it was last fall actually that happened. I actually don't know where that one was. That wasn't mine, thankfully. We also unfortunately had an issue where farmer was using a local lake for his water source, and a boat went over the pipe and split the pipe. The producer didn't know that had happened, and it was during a really hot spell as well. The cows didn't have water, and he lost quite a few there. Very common, and again, especially in spring when things start to melt away and people find carcasses lying around. And then we get a lot of complaints from neighbouring properties as well, especially with feedlots and things like that. People that don't know, exactly what's happening there, they'll phone and say they've got a load of carcasses, and it's, oh yeah, because the ground's been solid for so long that they haven't been able really to do anything with it. Mass disposal. Oh, this is the pig barn in southern Alberta, £800,000 of pork. So that was a complex one because rendering couldn't facilitate it because of all the other debris that's left behind. So it was a case of finding other suitable ways of disposal, which I believe they went to. They did a burial pit, if I remember rightly on that one. And you can see there that they dug the pit and covered it properly, proper cap, at least a foot. And they say like at least 3 foot deep. We deal with them quickly because of the possibility of disease, and also, they need to be disposed of properly. So we're pretty quick on acting with those and ensuring that the sites are found where they should be. This is if I remember right, I think this one is Wheatland County as well. At this facility, it was an on-farm slaughter operation. They were throwing a lot of their carcasses down the hill, and the coyotes and other predators were bringing it back up and eating it in the yard. They had an attempt at doing a pit, so they were throwing everything into a pit then, but not covering it. And as you can see at the bottom of the hill where the pit was as well, there's a water source, so whatever was going on in the pit was running down into the water source. From that, the offenders are still waiting court action on that one, actually. They were prosecuted. I ended up taking a lamb home from that one. This lamb, a couple of days old, was just left out in the sun to die. Took it home and unfortunately did pass away, but his last few days were better than was going on there. We come across this quite often, where somebody does the neighbourly act of dumping their dead animals on the neighbour's property, so it's no longer their problem, it's the neighbour's problem. That always ends well. Peace officers deal with illegal carcasses under the Environmental Protection Act, but more often than not will be involved as well and will assist with that. And I have to say, your peace officers here in Wheatland County, we've partnered with them on quite a few of these that you've seen there, and they've been an awesome resource for us. Like the knowledge of the area, the knowledge of the local bylaws as well in relation to unsightly properties, and they've been a real good resource for us as well. So I thank them for that. This one was mine. Unfortunately, there was a fatality, a chicken truck overturned. A local colony did the neighbourly thing. They turned up to dispose of all the dead chickens for us. But unfortunately, because it was not their animals, they then can't dispose of the animals on their land, because then they become a landfill, which they aren't authorised to be. And there was also another problem where they'd done the burial and the compost pit. There was a problem with the water source being close by as well. So unfortunately, what started off as a neighbourly act ended up costing them quite a bit of money, because then they had to get rid of a lot of waste to a proper disposal facility. So that's just something to bear in mind, that the burials have to be, it's your animals on your land, not somebody else's animals on your land, because then you become a landfill. These things you learn, eh? I never even give that a thought. So I won't go through all of these with you guys. You can see them up there, but these become important though when we're dealing with on-farm slaughter operations and meat facilities. Sorry, did I jump over one there? All of the regulations as well are available online, which gives you all the setbacks of where composting or burial should take place. So many meters away from property line, water, neighbouring properties as well. So they are all available online to view as well. I'll kind of skip through these because these are burning is an option for people, but it's not a recommended one because you can't get the required heat from a non-commercial incinerator that would be needed to actually incinerate the waste. So it is an option, but it's one that we say it's not going to satisfy the purpose. Composting is a big one because obviously it's a cost-efficient way of getting rid of disposing of your dead animals. Done right, like I say, 6 to 8 weeks. There should be more or less nothing left of what's in there. Sorry, I'm just going to skip through, like I say, a lot of these because we've covered them in a lot of the other places. This one's good to know, maybe for folks, as the Dr. Keith Lehman, the provincial vet, his office again, really good source of information if ever you're unsure about disease or disposal as well. They can talk you through that as well. Again, available online, the Livestock Mortality Management Handbook. The offences that we deal with, they're around about $15,000 per offence, and then rising up to 30,000 if you continue. And that is it. I've spoken to you probably way more than I should have done, and I thank you for your time.
No, we appreciate that very much. Yeah, I feel like I've been through a little school on disposal and the kinds of things that your organization deals with. So that's important for us to know for sure. This is all really good information. Questions from the floor?
Yeah, is there anything your operation can do to try to refine some of these acts? Like this on-farm slaughter thing is a huge thing. You look at the act and it's so poorly written. Like when you can have, and I just went back online to check it, but when you can, if I have this farm license, I could sell Jason Wilson every year 6 cows, 12 hogs, 12 sheep, 12 goats, and 150 chickens, turkeys.
Yep.
That's impossible for one family to go through. That's 3,000, 4,000 pounds of meat.
That's a lot.
8,000 pounds of offal.
Yep.
And like it should not be in the whole reason for this operation is so that if I raise an animal, I know that animal's spent the majority of its time on my farm.
Yep.
And I'm going to sell it to. So we've tried to solve a problem where, I was going to sell meat to my neighbor. So we bring this out, and now we bring all this other stuff out. And you guys look at, like, I guarantee you that meat has gone into a butcher shop somewhere, uninspected. I mean, there are the federal inspection facilities in Alberta. There's enough of them. I get my turkeys processed and they're federally inspected. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not that difficult to do. And yet they do this. So do you guys have, we're working on our end. It is talking to the Minister of Agriculture, might as well be talking to a wall, but we're trying to, we're trying to rectify the situation. Do you guys have anything in there? Like, do the politicians go, oh, well, we're spending millions of dollars a year in enforcement, trying to get this stuff, and we're putting spoiled meat, we're trying to keep this rotten meat out of the food chain. do they come back to you and say what can be done differently?
I will say over the last, and say I'm coming into my third year now being with the government. I can only speak to our recent interactions with Minister Sigurdsson, and he's been very receptive to some of the things that we've kind of said to him, like, you know, this poses a danger to the public, and he's been, like I say, very receptive and taking quite a few of the things that we've put forward to government. So, as you probably know, unfortunately, things are slow to move through government because they're dealing with so much change and so much different legislation. But he's very receptive to our feedback, and I appreciate what you say. And a small, well, I guess it was big for us, but a small portion of some of it was the fines and the statute of limitations. We said, you know, we need more time to investigate some things because they're so complex. And we also need some kind of preventative to make people go, oh, is that something I really want to get into? We do push things back, and they do get heard. And some of the things that they can action pretty quickly. And I was happy to see how quickly they acted on the meat inspection and regulations that they did when they increased the fines and the statute of limitations for us. That was big for us because, like I say, unfortunately, sometimes there's just so much going on within government that it's a slow process sometimes. But yeah, we have our issues that we push up, and we also, like I say, when we hear them from the public as well, we say, hey, you know, maybe this is something else that we need to look at as well, to refine and to clarify exactly some of the wording of what's out there, because some of the acts, you read them and you go, I don't know what I just said. So, yeah. Like I say, it does get heard, and it does get pushed back. Some of the things they can act on pretty quickly, and other things, yeah, are a slow move. But especially surrounding the on-farm slaughter, we have lots to say about that.
Ryan had a question.
Got a clarifying question. Are we saying that there was not illegal meat being sold before on-farm slaughter? Like, we're it feels like we're blanketing all of what you've presented here today as on-farm slaughter. But if there was no permit, I can say with certainty it was done before there was a process to do it legally. Is there not some positives that have come out of having on-farm slaughter and a proper permitting process?
There are, by virtue of the fact it allows us to have some traceability on where the meat's coming from. From what I understand was the on-farm slaughter operation license was brought about so people can, a producer can sell his animal to be slaughtered rather than having to go through the process of sending it to a facility and all of the cost involved in that, especially for some, you know, some of the smaller operators. They can sell their animal direct to, like I say, if you came onto my farm and said, I'm looking for a lamb, and that one looks really good, well, you can purchase that from me and I can slaughter it for you. So it reduces that kind of the overhead cost as well. But like I say, was it happening? How did it happen before? Well, yeah, sure, it was happening before where the animals would just be slaughtered and processed and off they go. But this allows some kind of, because I would have to report then on my on-farm slaughter operation license, this date, animals slaughtered, sold to. So the positives for us is the fact that when there are offences out there, when there are animals being unhumanely treated, when there's animals being disposed of inappropriately, we have some ability to enforce people to be compliant rather than, you know, people just disposing of animals however and wherever they liked.
Right, and in all cases of your presentation today, were those all on-farm slaughter permitted places?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. No, sorry, the Mountain View County operation was unlicensed. They were prosecuted 3 times, and then they applied for an on-farm slaughter operation license. Naturally, they were declined.
Right.
And the process for obtaining an on-farm slaughter operation license has changed as well, where you have to contact the county to ensure that there's no problem areas with you operating there. You have to complete a course on safe food handling as well, and you have to show water reports. And so it's changed from its original application process as well.
No, I appreciate that. I think there's some different perspectives, and we'll probably speak to it a bit later as well. But I think any avenues for producers that are doing it legally is great. I appreciate your work in that, and I appreciate you enforcing the ones that aren't doing it correctly. Because I think depending on the species, there's lots of restrictions to processing capacity, and that's probably only going to get more challenging depending on how interprovincial trades and other things play out. So,
Yep.
Thank you.
Sorry, Member Clausen and then Member Wilson.
Thank you for your presentation. There's a lot in here. I'm coming from the side, like I've hauled freight for years. I've had refrigerated trucks, and I've seen pretty much, I've even been in when they're hauling live animals to the bigger facilities. There's a polar opposite. One end of the full commercial operation is so heavily regulated. Talk about animal health. It's almost gone to the extreme where it's almost, you can't help an animal that needs to go into a facility because it's down in a trailer. It has to be thrown away because it's just ridiculous. And then you see this kind of thing, and when it's on farm slaughter, there's definitely some issues. And I don't want to hurt the guys that are doing it the right way, because there's a lot of people that are.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'll just give you context. I haul meat, half a skid of meat, which is about 800 pounds. The wholesale price on that right now is $7,500. That's how much it is. That's wholesale. That's before it gets out and gets cut. So this is motivated by greed. There's no doubt in my mind. It's cash money, and a lot of these cultures deal with cash directly. I've also hauled to a lot of those places in Northeast Calgary. I've seen them firsthand delivering product, and it's like my truck is cleaner than those facilities, and my truck is heavily regulated to what I can do. So there's a gap, and I've seen this happen in inspections over the years with Alberta Environment Parks. I've seen it. It's for all intents and purposes, you don't have enough people to do this right, and you need the tools to do it right. And then $100,000 is nothing for these guys. They're dealing with that probably in a day in profit if they're doing what I think they're doing. It is unbelievable when you see it, what's out there. We're next to over 1 million people, and it's only getting worse. Mm-hmm. I've had people come, like I have a small operation and some animals, and I've had people come out and offer me cash to basically butcher it on the spot, put it in the back of their car, in their trunk, and take it away. Yep. And it's like, no, it has to go to this facility, and this guy's going to come do it for you. They don't want it aged. They don't want anything. They just want it and gone. It's a culture thing.
And like I say, in some of the operations that we've been involved with as well, when we look at some of the records of sales and that, you're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars a year that it's cash. But like I say, some of those operations as well, we believe are bigger organized crime. Yeah. When somebody's paying cash for an acreage, it's a cash purchase, and then everything else that goes through there is cash as well.
Oh, it's huge money. People, like, it's staggering how much is involved.
Member Wilson.
Out of the cases that you guys the incidences you would investigate, what would the percentage be for those that are licensed and those that aren't? Just a roundabout number.
That's a good question, actually. And I honestly don't know the answer. I don't know the answer. There's certainly the ones that I've dealt with so far, I would say maybe 80% are licensed. Now, some of those are just, when I say, okay, they haven't all been the extreme that you've seen the photograph. They may just be issues with relation to how they're keeping the records, or you know, a neighbour's complained about, hey, there's a big pile of. So, and that's kind of like for us, that's an easy fix, right? Because you go along, you say, hey, you know, you haven't been keeping the correct records, or you're not dealing with your debt disposal properly. This is how you can do it. This is how you're going to do it. More often than not, people are very compliant because they want to keep the license, and also a lot of people don't want to upset the neighbours, right? These are the extremes that we deal with, and these extremes take up a lot of time to deal with. So you say some of them, especially the Mountain View County one, that was a long operation that we dealt with, which there was surveillance, there was warrants, there was all sorts that we had to do in order to gain the evidence that we needed to prosecute them. And again, we moved from Wheatland County. I think we actually went to Starland County, Mountain View County, Rocky View County, and these people are backed by money that can just pay cash for a premise.
That's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
Member Link, did you have any comments or questions?
I don't, but thank you for the thorough and educational presentation. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much for coming. I want to just let you know we certainly appreciate the work you do and have done. We have another kind of report later on in our agenda about this topic, and I see that there have been lots of licenses that are cancelled or suspended, and so we appreciate that you're out there and actually dealing with those bad actors. And I also want to acknowledge our bylaw who are here in the room to listen in, and these are your awesome partners, and I appreciate the teamwork that happens between our groups. So thank you for that. Yeah.
Thanks again. Thanks for the invitation. I really
Thank you for
appreciate it.
coming out, driving out on this
Yeah, it's always good fun.
trying day. But
Oh yeah, it's things I just take it nice and steady. Drive like my grandma. Thanks again.
excellent, thank you. We have a motion to accept the presentation as information, please. Councillor Larson.
So moved.
Thank you.
Can we get a break, please?
Yes, so we'll just call the question. Is anybody opposed? Hearing and seeing none, that is carried. We will take a 5-minute break. 3.1 ASB Awards. George.
Good morning, ASB. Through the chair, I'll just briefly go through this report. The Wheatland County Agricultural Service Board is committed to strengthening, promoting, and supporting agriculture and environment with our municipality with a focus on continually improving operations in the coming years. The ASB develops and implements programs and policies that address weed and pest management, soil and water conservation, and environmental issues for the benefit of all residents. The Wheatland County Ag Service Board offers various scholarships and awards to recognize individuals in the community for their commitment to agriculture, environmental stewardship, and leadership. The ASB presents several awards to acknowledge and reward notable efforts within the community practicing and promoting environmental stewardship and innovation. The following awards are available for annual nominations in the following categories: the Community Stewardship, the Youth Stewardship, the J. Laszlo Award, the Women in Agriculture, and the Master Farm Family Award. Award winners receive a certificate about the award and a $250 gift card to support their initiatives. The committee has reviewed this year's nominations for the J. Laszlo Award and the Women in Agriculture Award, and recommending to the board the following award recipients: the J. Laszlo Award to Scott and Brandy Schiffner, and the Women in Agriculture Award to Christina Stender and Ryla Montgomery. The committee unanimously recommended that the board present the Women in Agriculture Award to both this year's nominees. The recommendation is in part made possible by the absence of nominations in the Youth Stewardship, Community Stewardship, Master Farm Family Award categories, allowing for the reallocation of funds pending board approval to accommodate the two recipients of the Women in Agriculture Award. Additionally, as the Women in Agriculture Award is a recent addition, recognizing two recipients may help to increase awareness and encourage broader community engagement. The award is intended to celebrate the outstanding contributions of women in Wheatland County, and honoring multiple recipients still aligns with this core purpose. The committee reached its recommendation through unanimous consensus via email polling. By managing and promoting the awards program, the ASB fosters recognition of individuals and families who take meaningful action to enrich their communities. Award recipients' name, photos, and related details may be shared on Wheeling County's social media and other communication channels subject to the completion of the appropriate Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act documentation, which is included in the nomination form itself. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions or other information from George or anybody prepared to make a motion? Go ahead, Member Clausen.
I can make the motion that the board selects Scott and Brandy Schiffner as recipients of the 2025 J. Laszlo Award.
Thank you very much. Any discussion? I'll call the question. Is anybody opposed? Hearing none, that passes. Thank you very much. Yes.
I would make the second motion if that's acceptable. I have no way to indicate. But if that's all right, I would move that the board selects both Christina Stender and Ryla Montgomery as recipients of the 2025 Women in Agriculture Award.
That's perfect. Thank you, Member Link. Any discussion? I just want to say, actually, I normally try very hard to nominate people in all of the areas, and I dropped the ball. I think we all need to try and do some more nominations just to get all of our different categories covered off. But I'm glad that the two people applying on the Women in Agriculture are able to get an award this year. So anyways, I will call the question. Is there anybody opposed? Hearing none, that's carried. Thank you, everyone. We will continue on. Next item on our agenda is the ASB policy update. George.
Through the chair, I'll just go through the report here. At the Wheatland County Committee of the Whole meeting held on November 19th, 2024, the following resolution was passed: that the committee direct administration to increase social media public service announcements regarding farm practices at key times of the year. To ensure the continuity of this direction from Wheatland County Council, it's recommended to add the green text to the following ASB policy: Producer Extension and Education 3.2.8 statement. The initial statement reads as use of social media, newspapers, websites, and other media methods for information extension, and the addition will be and public service announcements regarding farming practices at key times of the year. A draft version of this policy update is provided as an attachment to this report with the track changes in green. The discussion about this resolution included several important farm safety public service topics, such as agricultural operations, including detailed guidelines and best practices for producers and the public to ensure safety during critical periods of seeding and harvesting. This includes the use of machinery, PPE, and emergency procedures. Equipment on public roads, safety measures and regulations for operating farm equipment on public roads. This covers visibility of equipment, appropriate signage, and the legal requirements for transporting large machinery to prevent accidents and ensure the safety of all road users, and awareness for new residents, information aimed at new residents in farming communities to help them understand and adapt to local farming practices. This includes educating them about the right to farm laws, which can protect farmers from lawsuits and help explain the importance of farming activities. So administration will actively communicate these public safety announcements through various Wheatland media channels, including the website, newsletters, social media at key times of the year throughout the year, specifically during the spring and fall operations. This will help to ensure that both the producers and public are informed and can take the necessary precautions to keep safe during the busy agricultural season. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Any comments or questions? I just want to say, I had asked George recently to put something on our social media that kind of gopher season is coming up, just as a reminder to everybody to start getting your plan in place. And so I think these kinds of things are really great to have on our social media. I hope lots of people are subscribing. But yeah, I think this is a good one. Can I ask for a motion from the floor?
So moved.
Thank you, Member Wilson. Any other discussion? I'll call the question. Is anybody opposed? Hearing none, that is carried. Thank you, everyone. Continuing on, we have our next item is 2.3.3 donation requests from nonprofit organizations. George.
Thank you again, through the chair. I'm going to go through this report a little bit more quickly. I just won't read the verbatim from the websites. We've been involved with these organizations for a long time, so I think the board is pretty familiar with them. So donations to nonprofit organizations help them operate effective, viable, and proactive programs and services that benefit the people in Wheatland County. The following information describes the functions and mandates of organizations who have submitted donation requests to the county. Funding request letters from the Foothills Forage and Grazing Association, the Heartland Training and Support Hub, the Bow River Basin Council, and the Red Deer River Watershed Alliance and the Alberta Invasive Species Council have been attached to this report, whereas we had spoken about the 4-H at our previous January meeting. So the first 4-H clubs, we had a history before the January 15th meeting of this year, talking about rearranging that programming. So this is how we came about using that budget line split between the clubs found within Wheatland County. And so there's some information about the 4-H club. I think everybody is very familiar with 4-H in this county. And at the October 3rd, 2024, the ASB meeting, the following resolution was passed that we split the funds 4 ways between the clubs. And the 4-H members did come and do such a wonderful presentation on January 15th. So we really appreciated that they come in. The next one is the Foothills Forage and Grazing Association. Their donation request is the same as last year and as many years before. So administration received the donation request in the fall to support their 25 funding needs, and the requested donation amount is $5,000. I had a quick question for the manager of Foothills Forage and Grazing, and it sounds like she had just celebrated her 15th anniversary at the organization, and Wheatland County had been donating before she had even been part of that organization. So that was just really interesting anecdotal portion there. And then the Bow River Basin Council, in previous years, we do the donation request of 50 cents per capita, which is $4,369. I would like to point out that the Bow River Basin Council is leading an invasive species pilot program on the Bow River, which is great from my point of view. Crown land has traditionally been not a priority for the government or for counties to really try and get a hold of what's happening. There's so many challenging things being next to water and spraying and things like that. So we're really happy to see the Bow River Basin Council spearhead this project, and that funding does come from the government of Alberta as well. The next group is the Red Deer River Watershed Association, or Red Deer River Watershed Alliance, pardon me. Consistent with prior years, the donation is the same as the Bow River Basin Council at 50 cents per capita. Notably, this group is a strong partner in the county's Rosebud Shelter Belt and Eco Buffer demonstration project. Last fall, they provided volunteers and a bunch of tree seedlings, and that support from them lines up with their mandate to enhance ecosystem services within the Red Deer River Watershed Basin. And I will mention that the Red Deer River Watershed Basin has been a great resource for me over the years as well, just trying to get local information about watershed planning and kind of random requests there. So they're a fairly decent group. The last one here to present is the Alberta Invasive Species Council. So their requested donation amount is $2,000. And historically, we had always donated that $2,000 per year. We partnered with them with the latest update for the weed booklet that had been done. They had actually gotten about, I think it was close to $25,000 worth of funding from the Realtors Association. So that was really great that they facilitated that, and then they involved us, and we put out that weed book together. So just in conclusion, I really wanted to batch these all up to give the board a full picture of how all the donations go. Previously, it had been split up based on when we received the donation request, so I kind of held off this year to present it all at once. So that's why I did it this way this year. So of course, I'm available for any questions. Thank you very much.
I think, George, that actually missed out on Foothills Forage and also Heartland Training, just in discussion.
Oh, did I miss that?
Yeah, it's kind of, it's good.
My apologies. Yes, so we did see our presentation from Jordan this morning. The Safety Smart seems to be one of the most impactful programs in Wheatland County, and these programs exemplify our dedication to a thriving and inclusive rural Canada, blending our legacy in safety with new holistic approaches to community support and health. They look to expand their horizons while staying true to their core values, and we have their donation request for $5,000. Was last year, their donation request is actually $375 less this year, just based on their support there. So yes, all of these letters are attached to these reports, and I did talk about the Foothills one already.
Sorry, I did. Sorry, my mistake.
And yes.
One more question. So that Heartland Training, they've requested 5,000. We're offering 46.25. Is that just our debt, our limit in our budget for donations? No. Oh.
No, the budget line item is actually $5,000, which was set before their request for the reduced amount came forward. So.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So their request is actually less
their
this
request
year
is for
than previous years.
Pardon me. Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, just a quick question, and I'm not opposed to it at all. I'm just mainly curious, how many other municipalities have two watersheds, two major watersheds?
I couldn't speak off the top of my head, but I would think a lot of municipalities would be part of two or more.
I don't.
Rocky View would be.
Rocky View would be. Vulcan?
No.
Yeah, I'm just curious, mainly.
Yeah, Vulcan County would be just the Bow River, I believe, but it might get a little bit more muddied waters when you start moving north and getting closer to these major watershed boundaries.
Member Larson. Oh, sorry, Clausen.
No worries. The BRBC one, I have to point this out. I sat at that table for quite a few years in council appointment. The problem with it, like the idea of it is good, but when it comes to looking at it from the context of agriculture, it will be the wall that agriculture pushes up against. They are more concerned, they are very much concerned about the upper watershed. Councillor Wilson, when Wilson was a councillor, him and I attended a meeting in Cochrane, and he got a first-hand taste of it, and it was hard for you to see it. They are very much against agriculture in a watershed.
Yeah, I did.
Practices, and if there isn't a lot of agriculture represented there, it is very much the headwaters of the city of Calgary to the west. That is their focus, and the runoff and everything that goes in it, which is a good thing. I'm not saying it, but it will affect us in the future. They're the pushing organization behind the restrictions on the Bow River for withdrawals. So any future development, this is the organization that will be the wall you push up against it at a point in time. So you're funding an organization you're going to be fighting with. That is just the plain truth.
Yeah, I fully echo Member Classen's thoughts. I sat on it my first year, and then Scott took it over from me because I had a hard time sitting at the table when all they were concerned with was the headwaters and the development within Calgary and the control on the water itself. And I didn't see good advocacy for the ag industry while I attended those meetings, and that's why I believe we pulled councillors off of that board in the last year of that term. So I do agree, and I can't speak to the Red Deer. That was never my spot.
I never went to Red Deer. Red Deer is still an open, they're still able to get water off the Red Deer River right at the moment. It doesn't have the restrictions.
Just a thought. I mean, I'm not opposed. It's 50 cents per cap. That is kind of why I asked the question. Well, you've got two watersheds. Can we look at half of our residents are closer to Red Deer watershed and half are closer to Bow. So
Curious to hear from administration about what services you feel that they provide to the county that we would be wanting to provide donations for.
George here. They do provide a state of the watershed, so they do a lot of monitoring and analysis on that. Again, the weed control initiatives they're working on now, and
then to back it up, Wheatland County has always been good for probably 25 years about watershed management, everything from the Crowfoot Creek. I think I sat on that long before I was ever a councillor, and about watershed management. But it gets to the point where the enemy is agriculture, and it's a common enemy, run off of everything that is applied to land, from riparian areas, from cattle, from ranchers, to the whole bit. And there has been great improvements there is no doubt. But the reality of it is, if you've been to those meetings, it is very much the educated professionals, and it's agriculture is the low-hanging fruit. So if you want to be part of it, you have to send somebody there that can defend it. And you are in a room, one person against 80.
Any other comments? Or Member Link, do you have a comment?
No, I appreciate the discussion. I have had some limited experience with both the watersheds. I do think, and I guess some more extensive work with the Alberta Water Council. Their work is important, but we do need to ensure that there is that representation at those tables. It can be very frustrating as the majority of the voices at the table at times are coming from a very environmentally focused perspective, which is important to be considered, but we need that balance of pragmatic consideration of the economics and our industries and our sectors, including agriculture. So I think it's critical to have, to participate and to support so that those perspectives and voices are there as well. But I certainly respect the discussion around, funding an entity that could create challenges for our agricultural producers. But we also know that our agricultural producers do value, clean air and clean water, and water has been an extreme challenge for many years, whether it's excess moisture or drought conditions. Yeah, I'm torn on this one. I will say I really appreciate George bringing all of the requests or all of the donation considerations at one time. I think that's a great process, and I would like to see that maintained, but certainly torn on the watersheds.
Member Reichert?
I would like this table, this council, or this membership here, this to maybe look at not funding the Bow River Basin Council for 1 year. The reason is that our council doesn't, and maybe they will come forward, and maybe they will make their case to us, tell us what they're actually doing, because I am really worried about the message that we're sending, that council doesn't believe that they're worth subscribing, being a member of. Then why would this organization believe the same thing? If we're worried about the fact that they do some good work with invasive species, that's fantastic. But there's another group on here that if we want to, take some money and increase the group that actually does nothing but invasive species, that may be a way forward. But I think I would recommend that we not fund the Bow River Basin and see if they come forward and can make a justification for their money.
George?
George here, just want to acknowledge Tom's comments. They, the Bow River Basin, they did do a presentation for the board. It was, I believe it was July of 22. They came in. They did have been in not too long ago. I just want to clarify that.
And I'm not saying it's a bad organization by any means. It is just from the perspective of an agricultural side when I look at it. Councillor Eichert and myself also did a tour in Chestermere of the stormwater management system that they had been partnered with an engineering firm that we've worked in Chestermere. And it was really interesting to see what they do, but it was also the engineering firm that put it on. So they were kind of there to facilitate, that's about it. So it's just from the perspective of an ag side. Careful what you fund.
Would it be fair that if we decide not to fund it, we would send a letter expressing concerns? Just to be clear.
Absolutely.
With them.
I think that's a great suggestion. I mean, honestly, to just not send something is confusing perhaps. So yeah, if there was a letter that just sort of indicated that we feel that our county is primarily agriculture focused, and that doesn't get enough attention on that in that organization. That's fair enough to do. Yeah. All right. I'm hearing some consensus. Do we have a motion?
I'll move that we amend as described to exclude the Bow River Basin Council, but the board direct administration to donate the balance of the total funded from the ASB environmental donations to organizations 2025 operational budget line item to be distributed as follows. I don't know if do I need to go through each one individually? Okay, perfect.
That's good. So we'll keep, you're suggesting that we keep the $2,000 to the Alberta Invasive Species Council as is. We're not going to take that $46.25 that was going to go to Bow River. We'll just keep that in the bank. Yeah. Okay. All right. Are we all clear on the motion? Hearing heads nod. Any other discussion? Then I'll call the question. Is anybody opposed? That is carried. Thanks, everyone. Good discussion.
I'll move that we send a letter to Bow River Basin Council expressing our concerns with the advocacy on agriculture as an industry, but expressing our gratitude for the care of the environment.
That's great. Any discussion? Nope. Hearing none, I will call the question. Is anybody opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. Moving on to our agenda, we have 2.3.4 is on-farm slaughter legislation following our great presentation. This should be, yeah, good.
George here from administration. I'm going to present on the on-farm slaughter operations summary. An on-farm slaughter operation allows the licensee to sell a live animal to a customer who may then have the animal slaughtered and processed on the farm. The operation may also provide a location for others to conduct on-farm slaughter and processing activities. Uninspected meat is strictly for the customer and their household and cannot be sold or distributed. So I won't go through all the points here. I feel that our presenter, Rich, gave a great review of all this stuff. This is all taken from the website. So I will just talk about some of the regulatory framework and compliance. Rich had talked on a lot of other portions, but some of the main things. So Alberta Agriculture and Irrigation is a provincial government that oversees licensing process and the meat inspection and act and regulations. So obviously Rich is part of that group, and they are the ones who go out and do the inspections, and they offer guidance in establishing and managing these slaughter facilities and really focus on water use and environmental impacts. The NRCB is an arm's length agency of the Government of Alberta responsible for environmental compliance, including waste management and water quality. So that's a big portion of that, and that falls underneath the Alberta Operation Practices Act, which provides the regulatory framework for managing the agricultural activities. Very broad legislation. It also includes the on-farm slaughter operations. So then there's a couple points just regarding the Meat Inspection Act regulations and fees there, but of particular interest is the Wheatland County specific information. So the licensee must ensure that their land where slaughter and processing occurs meets the requirements set out in the meat inspection regulation and complies with the applicable municipal, regional, or local zoning rules and bylaws, including our municipal development plan and land use bylaws. So this may include obtaining building permits, complying with waste disposal, adhering to traffic and parking restrictions, sewage disposal, documentation, and ensuring compliance within operational hours. So regarding the on-farm slaughter operation license statistics in Alberta, I had the Ag Service Officer reach out to some administrative support in AGI, and these are the stats they had provided us. This is a bit of a moving target, this stuff, but this is at that current time was where we were at. So in 2020 to 23, licensing application uptake tripled, peaking at 530 active licenses. In 24, 94 licenses were canceled, and in 2025, approximately 390 licenses remain active, with 10 cancellations, and the number expected to double by year end. So to date, 140 licenses have ceased operation and 46 have been revoked. I'm not sure of the particulars regarding the revocations, if that's enforcement orders or not, was not clear. Regarding Wheatland County has 13 licensed on-farm slaughter operations, while Strathmore has 5. So this information was gathered from the website, and in the application for the on-farm slaughter operations, they only tell you a mailing address. So that's where it could be. It could be someone in the county that has a Strathmore mailing address or vice versa. So again, a bit of a moving target with these numbers. So, and of course, some of the potential concerns are that, you know, food safety, there may be increased risk from uninspected meat, animal welfare. Again, a lot of these issues are of concern to the municipality because people use us as their first point of contact regarding complaints. So anything with animal welfare, I get those calls all the time. So that often comes to us. And then the regulatory compliance could be a difficult portion to enforce municipally as well. And then economic impact, increased competition for licensed meat processors and retailers could be a concern for some of our local businesses. So some of the relevant policy, I won't go into that, but you can see there's a lot of legislation spread out, and Rich gave a great presentation earlier expanding as to the depth of some of these operations. So I will do my best to answer any questions if you have any. Thank you.
Thanks, George. Any questions?
I read the report and I might have missed it. Did we, I have real concerns about having an on-farm slaughter license and a livestock dealer's license, because I know for a fact, I can't prove it's anecdotal, but there are animals being brought to the livestock market that are not being run through the ring because they're not healthy enough to run through the ring, and they're being bought via cash out the back door. So that means the guys could be, you know, homing them and raising them, but I'm probably thinking they're food. So like the fact that you can have both those things is it just highlights. So I think that's got to be, if we haven't, I think that's one of the biggest parts of this whole thing. And it's the other part is that if you've got a 3 acre farm and you're slaughtering hundreds of animals, they're not farm raised, right? I understand the concept behind this plan, and I like the idea because it brings people into compliance. It is another way to do it, but it is so rife with, you know, we are, you know, we're using the way we've been raised, and we're trying to bring those rules to new Canadians, and it's going to take a long time to get it. So I love the idea that if the inspection service is serious and it's a $100,000 fine, that is going to make people sit up and take notice. Especially the ones that I know of, that I'm aware of in this area, because I don't think they're organized crime, but the whole fact that somebody can have a livestock dealer's license and an on-farm slaughter license, I think that's just ridiculous. So I think we should really push that. So.
For myself, listening to the presentation before and now this, I'm mostly thinking that we need administration to have a process to follow. When and if there's an area and a file should be created, maybe it already is, I don't know. But when I hear they talk about prosecution, if we have a file created that goes, because a lot of times we as counselors find out about something, we forward it to administration, we don't know what happens from there. We need to be kept in the loop in a certain way and say, oh, there's been a file created and it will be ongoing or something like that. So all this data, like we send bylaw by, it's documented, pictures are taken, and that file just keeps going. And if it moves and it's the same perpetrators, that's fine too. We can just link them together, because from the sounds of it, this is not going away. It's going to get worse. And like a lot of these complaints, we're the guys that hear it first and feel it from our neighbors. And we're the first ones out there, so we need to document. And we may already be doing that, but I'm just stressing that very importantly. And then the people that are doing it the right way, they're going to say, oh yes, it's good. So they're cleared off, right? I think that's just something that we need to develop a process to make sure we're doing that.
Any other comments?
Just maybe a point on some of the background. If we scroll down, I would just add, like, there is just trying to see both sides of this. Scroll down to, we talk about, keep going, I think it's as it relates to Wheatland County. Just sorry, if we go up, my apologies. Anyway, we talked to from like an economic perspective for our slaughter facilities. I would suggest that, especially when this was rolled out, the backlog that was seen and can continue to be seen depending on the time of year makes it impossible for farmers to sell or process meat without just sending to auction. So I would play both sides of that on that comment, I guess. But I hear what Member Eichert and Member Clausen are saying, and would support. I'm not sure what ASB's role in this is and how or if there's something we can do, but I think we hear genuine concern from our enforcement officers, and I'm not sure, maybe a question for administration, how much have we, we speak to the county being the first line of defense, I guess you could say. Do we see this as a common complaint? That could just be me being naive, being a member at large versus a councillor.
From my perspective, the Agricultural Service Board, we actually don't have a lot to do with this kind of stuff. This is all provincial legislation. And often what happens is I will get a request from the public and I won't even know there's an active investigation, right? I'm with you guys, I don't hear about it until it's been completed. Unless there's some information they try and get from us. So like I said, sometimes we'll be the first point of contact. So there may be an investigation going on a particular individual, and then they will call me and say, can we do this? Can the county give us permission to do an animal disposal? And I'll say, no, that's not under our purview, right? So bylaw does get involved to a degree, but I'm not sure how much. And I think it's more of a kind of a reconnaissance role for them, just to talk to the people. Do you know any kind of like dangerous situations or anything like that? So, but I would be happy to absolutely track and follow up with this kind of stuff. So,
I wonder if it's actually not a council request to administration for our bylaw group to report to us. But to me, this seems like a council request for administration, but leave it to you.
For sure, because that's where the POs are have a different manager. So they need to set up, maybe it's already in place, but then when they talk about organized crime and stuff, I know the documentation is key. And if you have that chain right from the start, and we have a process, and it should be like, maybe we already do, I don't know, right? But just need to have that happen. I was, what got me elected here at one time was a compost site that, it was, everybody was pointing fingers about everybody else. Nobody was doing anything about it. There wasn't any documentation. There wasn't a whole lot of things. But once you started the process and actually time, date, place, pictures, this is what happened, here's what happened, and you just develop a file, that's when things start to change.
Member Reichert.
So are you not notified that, like, so I give this phone number out to all the neighbors. They got a complaint, you phone the inspection branch. You guys are not notified at all that there's, so maybe there should be we should reach out to them to just to notify that there's an apparent problem, especially if there's an inspection, right? Like, we should know that. So maybe as council, and that's not ASB, but maybe as council, we should be looking at.
I do think he said.
The chain of command, because it's going to go from the inspection to the RCMP, and then maybe to the bylaw officer in an investigation.
I did hear him say that they partner with our bylaw. I don't know if that's on every case though, and so yeah, I don't know how much we know. GM Bullock.
Sorry, just to comment, I think these comments are interesting, and I think, yeah, whether it's ASB or related or council related matters for the county overall, but we can take these comments back to CAO Henderson and have a discussion about potentially tracking these things, what we can track, what information we're privy to, what information can be shared under FOIP legislation and things like that. So we can take this back and bring it up with CAO.
George.
Just one comment is that a lot of this information, once the cases have been finalized, it is all public information posted on their website. You can go onto the website and look, and it will name names and it will name locations. And this information, once fines have been dispersed and the dust settles, it is all public information.
Good to know. Anything else?
I'll move we accept his information.
Thank you, Member Wilson. Any other discussion? If not, I'll call the question. Is anybody opposed? Hearing none, that is carried. Thank you, everyone. We will move on to Chair's report. So my report is on page 50 of the report. And I just want to highlight a couple things. Our last ALICE meeting, I just want to say that we're super proud that our farmer liaison, Rod Vergowan, received the Jerry Taylor Memorial Award for Excellence in Rangeland Management. So this is a prestigious award that he has received, and so just really proud that he's part of our pack. ALICE pack, and so congratulations to him. I also, just because Councillor Larson and I both attended the Wheatland and Area Surface Rights Society AGM on March 4th, and I reported to this already in our council yesterday, but for those that aren't there, I just wanted to let you know that they had an excellent AGM. We have an outstanding resolution with our provincial ASB regarding the surface rights processes, and so that was a significant part of the AGM. They did have Minister McIver, they had MLA Chantal de Jong and Nathan Cooper there, and they also had a number of senior tribunal members, managers and directors who talked about some of the changes that they have been making that directly relate to our resolution to them. And so one of them in our resolution is about contractual negotiations being fully paid by energy operators. And so that is still kind of an ongoing issue. They hadn't really looked to address that yet. They also, our second point was implementation of mandatory mediation prior to LPRT applications. And they are now offering free dispute resolution sessions before it goes to a hearing, but they are not mandatory yet. So we're going to push back still on that. Improve timeliness of applications. They have done a lot of work to try to get their processes sort of online and streamlined. So they have a portal that you can enter your application information into, and that helps them immensely in processing them. So that should help with timeliness. And then clarity of terms used in the Surface Rights Act. We just really, the group, I should say, want to be engaged on any potential wording changes to the Act. So they are making some progress. They also have engaged MNP to study the tribunal processes, and they created a survey that is online, and I think it may have shut down at the end of March, but it wasn't a great survey, I'll be honest. It wasn't that, I didn't think that the findings, the results of that survey are going to enlighten them a lot unless people have provided some short answer comments where they were able to. So if they get lots of that, it will be good. But they are also going to have some one-on-one meetings with groups like the Wheatland Surface Rights Society, so they should get some feedback that way as well. The summer tour committee, we have decided that it will be December 14th to the 16th, 2026. And yeah, I think I'll leave it there. My report is there. There's a lot in it, so happy reading, everyone. But so I'll move my report as presented unless there's any questions. Member Clausen.
A question I don't know if you can answer, but I remember Rod Vergouwen, I believe he was a landowner that opposed a big solar project next to his land. Is that not the one? Yeah? Was that not the one? Yeah. So it's amazing that he's getting an award for working landscapes and everything, because he had an amazing opposition to something going next to his property that was trying to look after his own, and we could do nothing to help him. To oppose a solar project going next to his farm homestead. That was, I think, before your time, but yeah. It was something that is just the irony of it, kind of. And he's a great guy. Don't get me wrong. It's just that these people that are looking after things and they're trying to protect their home properties, we're powerless to help them.
Interesting. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Then I will call the question. Is anybody opposed? Hearing none, that's carried. Oops, moving on to Manager of Agriculture and Environment report.
Good morning again, George here. I just have my report here with a few stats. Bit of a moving target again. We've hauled more bags than that since then. Couple notable things, I guess, includes we have, I think, almost 40 ground squirrel bait stations out underneath the snow right now. Yeah. And so the Ag Service Officer has been quite busy the last couple of weeks regarding that, and we've been getting some excellent control with the ZP rodent oat bait that we're using in that product. So looks like it's working really well. We are awaiting another 15-foot mower to come in the spring. We'll be moving to grain bag stockpile removal operations. We have a couple clients out there with, they say 40 grain bags. It looks like a lot more to me. They've been stockpiled over the years, so the crews will be getting busy on that. We did get our weed inspection services MOU signed with Rockyford Standard and Hazard. So that's for another 3-year term. The livestock emergency preparedness plan, I've spoken to Thomas Jukes about this. So I have staff going through and updating the contact and resource lists. They are about 90% completed now. ASB is working on an emergency incident trailer for our team in Public Works. So we're stocking that one with kind of spill equipment and kind of stuff like that. And then we're working through our pesticide labels and safety data sheets, just kind of making sure everything's up to par on that. And then on April 9th, we have our shelter belt and eco buffer tree workshop happening again. This happened again last year around the same time. We have the same fellow coming in again, Toso Bozic. And I think it was really well attended last time. So we're hoping that we get some good attendance this time as well. Our shelter belt program continually gets to be eaten up within the first week of opening and closing that in November. So we know that people are really interested in planting trees. And and I forgot to mention, we did sign our annual agreement with Alberta Transportation for the Hoary Cress program. And I'll just reiterate, Hoary Cress is one of the early flowering species along the ditches. Very hard to get contractors to come and do one species control. So we've been working on that with Alberta Transportation for years. When I started, I don't know if anybody recalls, but Highway 1 corridor was generally white with hoary cress in the spring, and we've made some great strides on that one. So we continue to work on that one as well. And I'm available for any questions if you have any.
Very good. Thanks, George. Any questions? Hearing none, I will ask if there's somebody will make a motion.
I'll move that the board accept the field man's report for the first quarter of 2025.
Thank you, Member Wilson. Any questions, comments? Sorry, was there something? Yeah, that's okay. He's just doing one. We'll do the other one.
We could do further if you'd like. Is it one?
Whichever, if you'd like. He has
Further
another.
that the board accept the ASB tracker as information.
Very good. Any comments or questions about the tracker? I know lots of green on it. That's good. I will call the question. Is anybody opposed? Hearing none, that is carried. Thank you. The last thing on our agenda is correspondence. There's quite a list of things in our correspondence. Any questions or comments about anything in there? I have just one thing that I wanted to highlight, that there's a request for comment on a federal offset protocol on reducing manure methane emissions. Essentially, they're proposing to provide an incentive for producers to treat liquid manure to reduce methane emissions. And they have 3 proposed options. One is manure processed in a tank and methane is captured. Second is a chemical treatment, acidification, to reduce methane production. And the third is separating into a solid sludge and liquid sludge so that the liquid sludge has less organic content and results in lower methane emissions. So this is a proposal. They are asking for comments on the proposal. Will be accepted until April 29th. There is no survey, so you just have to, you'll see in there's an email address that you can email your comments to. So this is just it's a offset program, so you would be rewarded for doing these one of these practices to reduce methane. So if anybody is interested in commenting, the information is in the package.
In the county of Wheatland, about how many people would actually have a liquid, like a sewer lagoon? I'm just wondering whether or not this even.
That's through the chair. I can't think of a whole lot out there, and that's 10 years of inspections going on all kinds of private properties, and I can't even name one, I don't think.
Yeah, I can't think of any. The main ones might be pig barns.
Or on the colonies, maybe. There might be a little bit more
dairies
potential.
and pig barns.
And I did advertise this survey through Wheatland County social media as well.
It's all those people that have supply demand on their side. So if they want to get a little more, if they can spend a little more money reduce methane, that's fine with me. They've screwed the rest of the system over.
All right, we just need a motion to accept correspondence, please.
So moved.
Thank you, Member Clausen. Whew. I will call the question. Is anybody opposed? That is carried. Thanks, everyone. That brings us to the end of our agenda, so this meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.